Hi, I'm Steve Ledoux, the town manager here in Acton, and we're here to talk about some of the articles at the special town meeting, which will be held November 10th at 7 o'clock in the auditorium at Acton-Boxborough Regional High School. Right now we're going to talk about Article 6. Article 6 is a special tax assessment for a company called Associated Environmental Systems. This is an unusual article for the town because we've never seen this before. About a year ago, legislation changed that allowed towns like Acton to provide some tax incentives for businesses to locate in town. Before, those incentives are really restricted to communities that had lower incomes, et cetera. So the town has been working with the company Associated Environmental Systems, and we have as our guest Richard Ellert, who is the Chief Operating Officer of AES, to talk a little about their business, and then I will speak to how the special tax assessment works. So welcome, Richard. Appreciate you coming. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your company and what you do?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me this morning. It's a real pleasure to be here in Acton. Associated Environmental Systems is a company that provides technology and regular companies the ability to actually test their products in an environment that mimics real-life environments. And so our chambers have the capability of going to very high temperatures, upwards of 200 degrees, and down to very low temperatures, down to 70, 75 degrees. And so it gives companies the ability to actually test a product and expose it to very high or very low temperatures.
Okay. So I know you've got a little PowerPoint you'd like to show the folks, so maybe if you could just kind of walk through your presentation.
It'll be my pleasure.
Okay.
So, basically, Associated Environmental Systems designs, engineers, and manufactures test chambers. And so we make machines that are as small as something that would look like a regular microwave oven, all the way to chambers where you can actually drive a car into. And so it's a very wide range of product, and it's very challenging technologically. We basically have produced, assembled, and installed 100,000 chambers worldwide over 55 years of existence. And as I mentioned, our chambers are used in a wide array of businesses such as electronics, aerospace, defense, medical laboratories, but also food supply companies and so forth. And very importantly, all of our chambers are designed and manufactured 100% in the US, in fact 100% in Massachusetts.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. So I was very impressed with some of the clients that you have, and maybe, I know you'll get that in your presentation, but...
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to share with you a couple pictures of what we do. On the left of your screen, and there is what we call a floor model, so it sits on the floor. Then a bench top, and then on the right, what we call rack mounts, where companies have very, very large laboratories where they need to test many, many products. And so they have hundreds of those machines lined up in one room. And then we also manufacture products that are called thermal shock. So if you can imagine having an oven and a freezer put together, one on top of the other, basically it allows company to actually literally thermally shock product from very high temperature to very low temperature very quickly. And then as I mentioned earlier, walk-in rooms where you can fit very large objects. As we mentioned earlier, we have a wide array of customers, and I wanted to share with you some of these customers we do business on a regular basis. And it goes from energy storage, electronics, aerospace and defense, medical, pharmaceuticals, and obviously consumer products. We do business with many of the top 500 companies in the US. In terms of our manufacturing capabilities, I think that we strive to be really on the cutting edge of technology. We use CAD design, laser cutting, robotic welding, powder coating. Everything that we do is always geared towards being able not only to supply our customers with cutting-edge technology, but also improving our internal systems and our ability to actually manufacture in a very efficient and in many ways ecological manner. One thing that we're really focused on, and one of the main reasons that has brought us to Acton, is our ability to get closer to places like Cambridge, where we're able to recruit computer scientists and technicians who can really help us achieve our vision to become a company that is focused on the Internet of Things. And you know, the best way to describe this is basically the ability to control the machines directly from a tablet or from your iPhone or from a computer, and to do so remotely, but also to be able to do data logging and allow the machines to actually push their status onto us so that we can actually work directly with our customers and intervene if there are problems even before they know about it. And obviously also being able to do diagnostics and so forth. So to talk a little bit about our proposed facility in Acton, to give you an idea, currently we operate 2 facilities in Ayer, Massachusetts, slightly north of here. And our total square footage is currently about 25,000 square feet. And, but we're running into a lot of issues such as limitation in terms of power, obviously the issues of managing 2 facilities and difficulties in doing so, and our staff that has been growing at a very high rate is really working in a very cramped environment. And as I mentioned earlier, it's much more difficult to recruit high-tech staff north of 495, and so this is clearly an advantage for us. And so if we look at our proposed facility here in Acton, it's, for some of you who are familiar with the town and its environment, it's the former facility of Milton Roy. It's basically got 50,000 square feet of manufacturing space and 20,000 square feet of office space, which we intend to lease out. And it's adjacent to the Acton Water District. It's got plenty of parking for staff. It's got ample utilities. It really has everything that we need to kind of provide a pleasant working environment for our staff and allow for our continued growth with it, which is quite significant. Excellent.
And the property's been vacant roughly a couple years, if memory serves me, the Milton Roy building. And other folks need to know, it's real near the post office. So if you're going down Post Office Square, this building would be a little past the post office on the left-hand side as you're going down Post Office Square.
Yeah, it's the building's been empty for 12 to 18 months. Yeah. It was ramping down for quite a long time before that, and but for us, it's really a perfect environment. The building is in great shape. The internal systems are actually adequate and will require very little work on our part to really get it up and running. So it's really an ideal situation for us. Currently, we have a total of about 55 staff, and we operate, as I mentioned earlier, in 25,000 square feet. And our capacity is about 50 units per month. Now that can go from very small units, as I mentioned, to very large and complex units. And so that varies from month to month. But what we're looking at is the ability to actually grow our staff to about 120 in the next year or so. And that really pushes us to require a space that is nearly double what we currently have, and to allow us basically to a capacity of 120 units per month, which is where we need to be to service our customers.
Okay.
In terms of what we bring in terms of contribution to the Acton and the Massachusetts community, first of all, it's the idea of reviving a fairly large industrial building that has been vacant, and as you know, these things don't grow better with age. Right. They need constant maintenance and occupancy. We are largely a very clean manufacturing operation, producing virtually zero waste, and whatever waste we produce is actually recycled or treated and removed from the facility in a controlled manner. None of the key components we use in our manufacturing are considered hazardous in any way. 75% of the dollars we spend are spent in Massachusetts, and in fact, that is one of our corporate dictates, is to really focus on local suppliers. And more importantly, 95% of what we produce is actually exported out of Massachusetts. So that clearly means that dollars are flowing into Massachusetts and basically staying in Massachusetts.
Excellent, excellent.
And obviously growing our staff from 55 to 120 should provide a bit of life and not only that, but contribution from all our staff to the local economy, and gives us the ability to actually recruit more high-tech staff, and not only that, but to recruit locally in priority. And then lastly, probably our ability to actually contribute to the use of the public transportation facilities that have been created here in Acton.
Right. Exactly. Well, excellent. So I think one of the things, as I said earlier, is this is kind of a new concept for the town, and this is through a program developed through legislation called the Economic Development Incentive Program. And I think we have like 3 or 4 slides that kind of explain that. The Economic Development Incentive Program is really a partnership between the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and the local community. And AES and Richard have applied to be designated as a project under the EDIP program, and once they're qualified, that enables them to get some tax credits at the state level, but also to get what is called a special tax assessment from the town. And a special tax assessment from the town requires a town meeting vote to approve. So we do have a slide that kind of shows how the special tax assessment program works. In essence, the first year of a special tax assessment, the company would pay $0 to the town. In year 2, what we've agreed with AES would be that they would pay 25% of the taxes. In year 3, they would pay 50% of the taxes. Year 4, 25% of the taxes, and from year 5 on, they'd pay 100% of the taxes. Right now, the property has about $50,000 a year in taxes. So when you kind of do the calculations on a constant dollar basis, the tax incentive for AES to come to Acton is about $125,000 over those 4 years. Clearly, assessments do change, et cetera, so that number would fluctuate to some degree. And as Richard had pointed out, what the town gets is, first of all, we get a very exciting business to occupy space that's been vacant for approximately 1.5 years. We bring ultimately 125 jobs to Acton over the course of the next year and a half, and I recall some kind of economic study that once said that every dollar spent locally kind of regenerates itself, I think, 8 or 9 times. So, clearly that has ramifications to all our businesses for this company locating here. Also, and Richard didn't really get into it, but part of this, what they will use their savings for is to make their building totally green and try to get off the grid as much as possible. And I see he probably has a slide about that. I'm not sure. And finally, as Richard said, contributing to our transportation program, the potential of bringing some high-tech people, perhaps even to locate to Acton, are all real positives for the community, and that is why the Board of Selectmen is recommending the special tax assessment on November 10th. And Richard, I don't know if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Well, I think, first of all, it's very rewarding to have had the opportunity to actually address the Board of Selectmen and to receive their support. It shows that Acton is a very progressive company and very welcoming to new businesses. So this is it kind of sets a good example for future events of the same sort and for future businesses to look at Acton to relocate. It's also an opportunity to kind of upgrade the community with jobs that are more on the high-tech side than on the low-tech side of things. Although we do both, we straddle both. So it's for us, it's very very exciting. But more importantly, to talk about tax incentives, in many cases may sound like a gift, and it's not. Relocating a company of our size is a very expensive proposition. Clearly, it's in our best interest, and so there's no hiding that. But it's also very important that we'd be able to take advantage of what both the state and local statutes will allow, because it allows us to actually choose one location over another, right? And that's clearly what we're doing here. We've decided to concentrate on Acton, and we certainly hope to be able to have a final determination after the town meeting on November 10th.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think Richard and I have probably been meeting since I'm thinking July. It's been a few months now, and I find it personally very exciting company, doing a lot of working with a lot of cutting edge companies, as Richard has said, and I think it'd just be a real asset to have AES in town. So once again, we've been talking about Article 6 at the special town meeting on November 10th. I'd like to thank Richard for taking some time to explain about his company, and hope we'll see you all at town meeting in a couple weeks. Thank you so much.